I finished up my first playthrough of Starfield back in November, just a couple months after it released. At the end of that first run, I had almost 200 hours on just the one save game. I had gotten past level 60, I had done all 4 factions, and I had done just about every unique side quest that I could find. And when I entered New Game Plus, my plan was to maybe step away for a little bit and then come back to it, but I still haven't. And the more that I sat and thought about it, I couldn't help but wonder if New Game Plus was worth it. Not just for me as a player, but if adding New Game Plus had even been the right move for Bethesda themselves. Let me just quickly add that there will be spoiler stuff in this video, since Starfield's story actually ties in quite a bit to its New Game Plus. And for me to really discuss my thoughts and issues on this system, it requires a look at the story and its themes. Starfield's main story starts off with a fairly straightforward premise. These mysterious artifacts are giving you and a couple other people visions. And Constellation, the Explorers Guild, has taken it upon themselves to find these artifacts and understand their origin and meaning. This leads to a series of quests focused around finding the artifacts, some of which are interesting, like negotiating for it on Neon with Walter, while others are more straightforward dungeon dives. After collecting a number of them, you'll then be asked to investigate an energy source that is similar to that of the artifacts, which leads to you getting the first of the powers, which I didn't even use very often because I didn't wind up finding them all that interesting. And as you progress, you'll encounter the Starborn, a mysterious and enigmatic foe, who makes it clear that they're hunting the artifacts as well, and have deemed you unworthy of their possession. It's not until the later part of the main story that things really started to pick up for me, with the death of one of your main Constellation companions. For me, it was Sam. Sorry, Cora. You come face to face with the Starborn Hunter as well as the Emissary, and you begin to learn more about the artifact's purpose. The artifacts serve as a key of sorts to an infinite set of alternate reality universes. By collecting all the artifacts, you can build the Armillary, allowing you to enter the Unity, to transcend this universe, and to be reborn in another one as a Starborn. The Hunter and Emissary represent 2 different sides to the Starborn mentality. The Emissary, who has seen the damage that has been done by humanity's search for the artifacts, and in his mind, he's protecting us from ourselves. The Hunter believes that ultimately him and the Emissary share the same selfish goal in achieving the Unity. But the Hunter, through his ongoing search, has taken the approach of not letting anyone or anything stand in the way of the artifacts, killing whoever they have to, since, in his mind, none of it really matters anyway. We then learn that one iteration of the Hunter eventually strayed from this more destructive path, taking the time to then embrace their humanity again and taking on the moniker of the Pilgrim, before finally settling down to found the Sanctum Universum religion as Keeper Aquilus. Story-wise, the Unity, the Infinite Universes, and the Starborn have some interesting philosophical implications, and the later parts of the story where we start to have some of these conversations stood out to me as some of the stronger parts of the game. Your companions and romantic partner will ask if you're going through the Unity, bringing up that even if you were to find them in another universe, it wouldn't really be them, and any relationship that you build wouldn't be the same as the one that you already have. And gameplay-wise, the Unity, the Starborn, it all exists as a foil for New Game Plus. Entering the Unity makes you Starborn, starting you off in a Starborn ship in Starborn armor, bypassing the very beginning of the game on Vectera and Crete, instead placing you at New Atlantis for your first meeting with Constellation. But unlike the majority of games that have New Game Plus, you don't keep your original gear, your ships, your credits. You keep your level, your skills, and even that blurs a fine line, because you keep the manipulation skill that comes directly from having the neuroamp, but you don't technically have the neuroamp upon stepping through the Unity. And yes, story-wise, the whole idea is that you're saying goodbye to these possessions to embrace the life of a Starborn, but it also feels a little underwhelming. All the weapons you customized, the ships you collected and built, the legendary rules that you got, all the credits you saved up, gone. Ironically, we saw a lot of comparisons to No Man's Sky before Starfield released. And I would say that Starfield's New Game Plus weirdly echoes No Man's Skies. Finishing the main story, named the Atlas Path, allows you to reach the center of the universe and interact with the Atlas itself. And you're given a choice between resetting the simulation and choosing what type of galaxy to start again in, or you refuse, and you continue to exist in your current one. It's kinda on the nose of how similar they are. The difference being that even in No Man's Sky, you're still able to travel back and forth between your original galaxy in order to go to the bases that you've already built. And in the case of No Man's Sky, it's a survival and exploration game first, and a story game second. This reset of sort works better for a game in this style than it does for a more story-focused RPG like Starfield. The beauty of New Game Plus in other games, Mass Effect, Witcher 3, God of War, and many more, is that it's a way to keep all the cool stuff that you already had, to continue to level, to find better gear to replace your old stuff, and to re-experience the story. But for the vast majority of these games, New Game Plus wasn't part of the story. Starfield is then in this weird place where New Game Plus feels too central to the game. The main story itself wouldn't exist without the inclusion of New Game Plus. It is quite literally a central part of the main questline, and going through the Unity, going to the other universes is considered part of that. And you get the chance to replay the story with the knowledge that you have as a Starborn, being able to save a companion from their death, or even telling Constellation everything that you know, and skipping the vast majority of the main questline to beeline getting to the Unity faster. And in addition to needing the artifacts in order to enter the Unity, the other component of each New Game Plus run is the Starborn powers. Each run acts as a way to find the temples again, up to all 24 of them, in which reacquiring the Starborn powers improves them, with the ability to get each power up to level 10, meaning a minimum of 10 full runs, assuming that you get each power each of those 10 playthroughs too. That is 240 times of going through the little floating lights in the 0G temples. That is not a fun gameplay loop. And since I'm bringing up how other games approach this, it's worth noting that there is a studio that has their story and their lore tie into their New Game Plus. And that is the case for many of From Software's games, with the Dark Souls trilogy in particular being a really good example of this. But I'm gonna stick with Dark Souls 1 just for this quick aside. In Dark Souls, you defeat Lord Gwyn, and you're left with a choice. You can rekindle the bonfire, succeeding Gwyn as the next great Lord of the Lands, revitalizing the land for a time. Or you can leave the boss area without lighting the fire, becoming the Dark Lord and bringing in an Age of the Dark. Either way, after the credits roll, you start the game all over again, with your level, your gear, everything. All NPCs, side quests, etc. play out exactly the same as they would in a first run. And to me, this works because it's not supposed to be taken quite literally as, oh, all of this would happen exactly the same again. It's more symbolic, and is more so an example of gameplay and lore not perfectly aligning. The world of Dark Souls operates in cycles, with the first bonfire eventually going out, requiring a person to relight it again and again. It's not that your character is revitalizing it every time, it's that you have that suspension of disbelief, that you, the player, are taking on the role of another cursed undead, taking on the same type of journey that your previous character did. Unlike Starfield, Dark Souls New Game Plus is more about the philosophy of the universe, rather than having it as an overt story tie-in and continuation. And despite the ability to skip most of the main story in each run, it ultimately kind of feels meaningless. Yes, you can improve the powers, yes, you can get a better version of the Starborn ship and suit every time you go through the Unity, but in the end, there is technically no end. There's no resolution. We don't learn who created the artifacts, who started us on this path to find them in the first place. You just keep resetting again and again until you're bored and go and play something else. I get it. It fits into the themes that they introduced with the Hunter, but despite the intent, it just doesn't do it for me. Knowing that there is no end, no way to have a true and full conclusion for the story, it just feels empty. And yes, I think thematically that was the goal. I just don't necessarily love that myself. Now, there is another hook to New Game Plus, one that did keep a lot of people going through the Unity time and time again, and that is the slight variations that you can get in some of the universes. Your very first New Game Plus is hard-coded to be an exact replica of your original world, with the ability to tell Constellation everything, or to play through normally. New Game Plus 2 and up has the chance for Constellation to change, with one version being that Constellation members are all children, who just give you the artifacts and leave. Another one has Korra as a Starborn, trying to figure out where Sam is. These do serve as fun Easter eggs of sorts. If anything, seeing these are more of a reason to go through the Unity, rather than grinding out the powers through level 10. But let's take a second to talk about how New Game Plus affected the balancing and the pacing of the game, and in my opinion, negatively in some ways. Prior to Starfield's release, Todd Howard said that one of the goals for the studio was to create a game that people would be playing for 10 years. The same way that people did with Skyrim. And with Skyrim, it wasn't intentional. It was lightning in a bottle. It feels like with Starfield, they were so fixated on trying to build out a system that would incentivize playing for years and years. And their answer to that was New Game Plus. So they built the story around it, level scaling around it, and so on. Experience gain feels painfully slow at times, with resorting to grinding out outpost production or planetary scanning if you want to hit level 100, which is the final level-related achievement. It feels like their solution to longevity, whether it was player level, powers, the Starborn ships and suits. It all comes back to New Game Plus, and expecting you to run through it so many times. Losing credits felt like a real kick in the teeth for me, because one of the things that I love is Starfield's ship customization, and it's incredibly expensive. So I start off in a new universe with all my skills and levels to unlock better ship parts, but then I have to go and grind out credits if I want to build out a cool custom ship again. And despite these all being new and unique universes, the only changes to them are what happens with the Constellation members. Nothing else ever changes, except for the location of some of the temples. Because we can't make it easy and let you just look up all of their locations now, can we? It feels like New Game Plus is there to just run up the playtime, not to present you with all that interesting of a look at what it would mean to travel between all these different realities. I love New Game Plus in other games because it feels more optional. It's there if I decide I want to engage with it, not because it's presented as a central theme in the story, and serves as the final act of it. Starfield almost feels as if New Game Plus is being treated as this revolutionary new feature, so it was decided to build out so much of the story, its balancing, and its themes around its inclusion. Taking away gear, credit, ships, and more just feels punitive. And while it's a part of the story's theme, they could have very easily excluded that. Have the emphasis be on leaving behind your home, your friends, your loved ones, and still keep your physical belongings. The story would still work out perfectly fine that way. What I hope is that one of the story expansions for Starfield gives us some sort of resolution to the Unity. We're teased with the idea that someone created the artifacts, created this whole loop and test for us to prove ourselves in. Let us find the answer to that. Let me have a satisfying conclusion to the story. When it was first announced, Starfield was described as a game that asks why we're here. Is there something out there for us to discover? And without knowing what force is behind all of this, we simply don't get an answer. Or maybe give us an expansion where we try and find a way back to our original universe, making us the first Starborn to come full circle. And because I've spent a lot of time harping on New Game Plus, let me just say, I know you have the option to not do it at all. I think the more satisfying ending to Starfield is stepping away from the Unity altogether, interacting with the alternate version of yourself, hearing of the impact that you made on your universe, and then turning back. Staying in your reality with your friends, with your ship, your credits, and everything. After seeing what the Unity has done to the Hunter, to the Emissary, are you really better off following in their footsteps? And maybe that's the real secret to the story. to make the same decision that Keeper Aquilus finally did, after however many iterations, and to realize that it's simply not worth chasing. But let me know your thoughts on it. Did you like Starfield's New Game Plus? Did it keep you invested in the game? Or were you like me, and felt that it was there just to extend your playtime, without really adding more meaningful content to the game? And listen, I've got more than 200 hours in the game across a couple different characters now. I have my problems with the game, but I did really enjoy it. And with some of the updates coming out this year, I hope that Starfield continues to improve, and that it can get the new breath of life that we saw with games like Cyberpunk and No Man's Sky. But that'll be all for today. As always, thank you for watching. If you enjoy the content and want to support the channel, check out the Patreon or the YouTube memberships, both of which get access to the Discord server. And YouTube members get access to the channel emotes, which can be used in the comments below. And finally, if you like these kinds of gaming discussions, make sure to check out the streams at twitch.tv/0periodproductions. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.